So you think you're a good coach. Most leaders do. In this episode of The Leadership Hustle, we'll discuss a 3-part model to help you get coaching right. Hello, and welcome to The Leadership Hustle for executives whose companies are growing fast and need leaders who are ready. So, coaching. Man, how many times a day, Michelle, do you hear leaders talk about, oh, I have to coach this person, or yes, I want some coaching, or the word coaching comes up.
It comes up with everything.
Everything, right?
It's like this umbrella, and you just put a bunch of stuff under it. Is what people refer to as coaching, and then people that are in the environment start confusing what coaching is as well, and actually coaching can get such a negative perspective with the employees because they will use the performance plan and improvement for performance plan, if I can communicate. But they call that coaching, and then so people then view, if you try to use the word coaching any other time, it feels like discipline.
Right.
In those environments, at least.
So one of the things that we have noticed over the years that we've been doing this is people use the word coaching for a variety of different behaviors. So whether it is I'm training them, they call that coaching. If I'm giving them feedback on something, I'm coaching. If we're having a dialogue and we're learning about something, we're coaching. If somebody is not performing well and we need to have the coaching conversation, or I have to counsel this person, they're not talking about counseling, they use the word coaching, right? And so people just don't know what lens to or what filter to listen through when their manager or when people are using the word coaching. And so, let's talk about the main three. Like, what are the main three categories of this process that people confuse that coaching? It's like, let's just, for our audience's sake, clear some things up. So first up,
if you're saying three things, I think if it's pretty logical when you have a new employee or they're introducing something new to someone, you start with training.
Always.
Yeah, we're training, and training is just not telling them once. There is a process that goes involved in training that engages them, lets them practice it. You're having conversations with them, and which then can eventually, once we've introduced it, talked them through it, gave them a little bit of opportunities to experience it, then we can start transitioning into our day-to-day coaching of developing them to become really good at whatever it is we started training them on.
Right.
Training, coaching, and then the third, which is really an ugly, blurry line, is discipline.
Right.
Because oftentimes, because it's so blurred, people feel if they're using the word coaching, they're in trouble because they don't create a clarity of the discipline piece of it. They cause them to still feel like they're in coaching. It's like, no, we have to have more of a official conversation.
Right. So on a continuum, if you look at this on a line, a continuum line, 20% of something probably is going to be training. You're introducing the idea, you're introducing the why, you're giving them the technique, you're giving them, helping them get some answers to questions and things like that. And then there's other 20% on the other end is maybe, or 10% is this discipline. And discipline isn't about being mad at the person. This is a negative consequence to a lack of meeting expectations. That's really what that is. Repetitive, right?
Yes.
And oftentimes we'll hear people go from training, I told them, training, I reminded them, to discipline. And they forget the other, 70-80%, which is the collaborative part of what goes on a day-to-day basis, which is what we really call coaching. And it's people doing something, getting feedback. Yes, that's right. Here's what we need to adjust. Here's how to make it better, right? Mm-hmm. Or if you want to do something different, or if you want to do something more involved with that, here's some more feedback to get you to a higher level.
Yes,
right?
and a lot of open-ended questions. How do you want to handle that? How have you, what's worked just recently? What would you adjust? How would you make it better? The coaching piece is engaging them in the dialogue, getting them thinking, and really getting them involved in developing that skill.
Right.
or solving a problem, whatever that may be.
Right. Well, you used a really important word there, and the word is dialogue. So oftentimes, what we'll hear people do is like, we'll have to have this event that's coaching. Like,
that's the blur.
That's the blur. It's like, it does not have to be an event, because now we've made it something bigger than what it really needs to be, right? So if I have an employee who is struggling or didn't meet an expectation, whether it was something was late or something wasn't quite right, or the graphs weren't correct in some kind of PowerPoint, whatever that wasn't right. If I wait till tomorrow or the next day when I'm scheduled to have my one-on-one, or I schedule this appointment, it's like, oh, we need to talk. That's what the employee hears, like, oh crap.
Yeah, I'm in trouble.
Right, I'm in trouble. Versus, hey, I want to talk about this PowerPoint slide and how we can make this look differently. These are some preferences I have. Let's have this conversation. It's dialogue.
It's dialogue.
What would you do differently? How would you like to see this different? I'm looking for something like this. Asking some questions. Now let's agree upon what the outcome is and move forward. Because coaching is truly helping another person meet an agreed upon future state.
Yes.
Right? And so making sure that we have those conversations. And it's simply a conversation. It's
not an event. It's just a conversation. And so, I mean, we've given examples on the coaching component of more of that technical training, how to do your job or whatever that may be, right? But oftentimes, what I really hear often, as I said often twice here, but what I really hear is it's the little things of what people do that take a person from, we've told you, to now discipline, right? And it's more, I want to say it's a little more behavioral. It may be the use of a cell phone. It may, it's the things and how we get things done. It's how we work. What are those expectations? Mm-hmm. Some particular organizations have positions that have people that need to be in at 8 a.m. for X, Y, Z, right? And the person shows up at 8:05, now they feel they have to coach them. And it's like, well, with that attitude, are you mad about it, or are we going to try to find out what happened? Let's first. Again, it goes back to the dialogue, right? And creating clarity of what happened, tell me what's going on. Let's talk about why we have this. Why do you think, or why do you believe we need to be here at 8 a.m.? And that's that coaching. It's helping people understand the why behind it. Because a lot of times when the things that we do, whether it's the various little things and how we run our business,
right.
A lot of times people just don't understand why that's important. They may not realize that why the cell phone is a safety issue.
Right.
And again, everyone's environments are so unique. So sometimes the 8:05 or 8:10 or the cell phone is not an issue at yours. But there are going to be things that are. And what are those?
Right.
And those are those coaching opportunities to create clarity of what we need of them.
And as you were talking there, I was hearing the shift between an attitude of, I have to, now I'm mad at them because I have to flip and do my job as a manager and coach, right? That's really what your job is to help people find a way to perform the job they're supposed to in the way that your expectations have been established, right? And it's like the attitude of coaching is simply, how do you help somebody perform? How do you help somebody do what they do better, stronger, faster?
How do you help them understand?
How do you help them be a good coworker person in this environment? We do it all the time in our home environments, right?
Maybe.
Well, some do, right?
Yeah.
I make the assumption that many people do. And yet we don't think about it. Well, we have to have a coaching session, right?
Well,
we sit behind the kitchen table and it's like, well, that's a little bit more formal.
Correct.
Versus just a conversation.
Yes. Most of the time, it's just a conversation. It's funny you brought that up, because yesterday during one of our celebrations with one of our groups, an individual had mentioned something that he took away from all of our sessions was he had gotten himself in this mindset that he has to. I have to do this, I have to do that, versus I get to.
Sure.
And that whole I get to develop, I get to have coaching conversations, I get to help someone perform and do, grow and impact their future. He didn't realize he was going down that route of I have to, and how that has such a negative ripple effect as well. Yeah. And it also can cause people to feel like it's more discipline, that that his approach was possibly more of a direct, more of a maybe negative versus the I get to help you.
I get to.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that we're talking about manager to employee. And it's completely okay for peer-to-peer to coach somebody on how to do something. It's like, hey, by the way, I was looking for this report to be done. I didn't get it. What's up? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, here's what I was meant. Oh, right. This conversation, this dialogue is a coaching conversation.
Yes.
Right.
And that goes back to a little bit our culture. Do we have a culture where there's peer-to-peer accountability?
Right.
Peer-to-peer conversations of helping them as well.
Right.
And, I notice you're struggling, or I notice you've had some questions today. I want to help you, but let's maybe look at a couple things that might help you actually before we dive into this.
Right. So there's different levels of coaching in the feedback part, which is how do you help people get to perform the responsibilities they have today, right? And so that's the training, and then how did they get some time to practice, and how they get the feedback, and how can we support them in gaining that skill so it's part of their habit. And then there's the development of here's the next level. And so you're going to another level, and now it becomes developmental. And so how do we help somebody? Would you like to go to more of a high-performing position or high-performing role or high-performing skill set in this particular role that you're in? And so all of those are coaching. It's very, very few people who need discipline.
Correct.
And part of that comes from the mindset, the attitude of coaching. It needs to be dialogue. Treating coworkers as adults, not people who have to be managed and controlled and disciplined, because I don't know any adult, I don't know any child either who likes to be disciplined, right?
Correct.
And so, yes, there are times
fear.
where...
if you jump right to it, you're creating that environment of fear.
Right. And so it becomes an environment where now it's, you're doing something negatively to have an impact on that person, but the process is negative, or we assume it's negative.
Yes.
And I think that what we have to recognize as good coaches is, let's recognize what the different stages are. Training, you cannot coach without training.
Correct. You have to start.
You have to start with delivering content, expectations, why, how.
The expectations and why, so big. Because I ask that question often where a person feels they're going to have to go into discipline, and I'll ask the question, well, what's the clarity in the expectations? What does that look like over since you've started this?
Right.
And then they start second guessing themselves, because they're like, well, I thought I was clear.
That's because you told them. What we don't know is what they understood.
Or did you even tell them? Because you get that too sometimes. Well, they should know this.
So we do the training, and we always have to provide training. And then the coaching is giving some critique, giving some feedback, people getting to ask questions, adjusting. Can we try this? What would happen here? Here's what I'm really looking for, right? And so getting
sometimes
that
continue to sharpen clarity.
And then just this little space over here of a few that actually need discipline. But you have to check your head. What is your mindset? Are you going in believing this person is going to get it? What is
the belief?
What is my belief? How can I be that person to make sure they succeed in this role? Or is it, I'll believe you until now it's taken too much time? Or I've already told you a million times, how many times have we said the word telling is not training, right?
Yes. And do they believe they have good intentions?
They believe they have good intentions. So coaching, I mean, we can make this a whole entire course, just coaching, but I think that the part that people most get messed up in the process of coaching is using the word coaching for a variety of different things, and not realizing that the majority of the time they spend in their leadership role should be on coaching, not the training. Training needs to happen, but 60+% of the time that you're interacting with your folks should be on the coaching, feedback, finding out what they need to even have the custom information that they need to do their job in a different way, whatever the technique is, and reserving that discipline to, do I really need to go there yet? Or is there more or a different way I should be coaching this person to help them be successful? Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Leadership Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode.